also you're known in the community for the hacks you've worked on with the games.
People
How difficult is it to mod and manipulate the Shenmue games? Are there any particular hurdles you have to overcome in order to actually be able to manipulate them?
So it depends on when you're talking about. Nowadays, a lot of the people in the Dreamcast scene wrote tools that we can use to mod Shenmue that make the process a lot less stressful. Which, like, thank you guys so much. To name some people, Kakazawa, Syzius Dreamcast, of course. People like why am I forgetting their name? Oh, DC SWAT Team is another one. Il Ducci's team. They all made a bunch of tools that make modding Shenmue, a lot less difficult. But I will say, modding Shenmue is kind of. It depends on what you want to do. Say, like, if you want to swap characters. Swapping characters, like taking NPCs and turning them into other people, like turning Joy into Shuing, turning Joy into, I don't know, Donyu, which is really watching Donyu ride a motor, or turning Baihu into Lan Di to fight Lan Di, because they use the same fighting style. Little lore for you. It's easy to do because we have the tools to just modify the two files we need to modify to be able to do that. Like in Shenmue 1, say, like, if you want to make a one of the mods I've been working on for a while, like 3 years, is a rideable bike in Shenmue 1, because for those of you who don't know, there was a rideable bike at one point, but it was taken out of the game. So I made an initiative to put it back in the game. And to be able to do that, you have to modify a lot of different things at a hexadecimal level. So, like, opening files in a hex editor and using trial and error to adjust so many lines of code.
How long does that process take? Is it is it really time consuming?
Yes, very time consuming.
Yeah.
Because for one, I don't know how to do it, so it's all trial and error. For two, you have to calculate like endian numbers and like all this other hexadecimal mumbo jumbo, and then you have to build the game from its game files into a playable Dreamcast image. Like, it's very time consuming.
Is it easier to do on the Dreamcast or the Xbox? Because I noticed when we chatted before, you mentioned that you do it on your Xbox as well. Is it easier to do it on there compared to the Dreamcast?
It depends on what you want to do. Like I said before.
Okay. Yeah.
The good thing with the Xbox version is that with a modded Xbox, you don't need to compile anything.
Nice.
They're literally just files on a hard drive, and you could just edit any file, execute the game, and hope to goodness it launches. So the other cool thing about the Xbox, from an infrastructural and coding standpoint, when it was ported from the Dreamcast, they took a lot of like shortcuts to get the game to work, like certain files being negated and then like combining packages, different packages, and all this other crazy stuff, so that it's quicker to do certain hacks than it would be on the Dreamcast, because you have to modify less things and you don't have to compile anything. But the problem with the Xbox version is that a lot of the documentation that us modders have done is on the Dreamcast. For instance, myself and one other hacker created a pretty much a modding knowledge base on the internet, and it was mostly for the Dreamcast. Like, for instance, the way the notebook works in Shenmue 2 on the Xbox is very different than the way the notebook works on the Dreamcast.
In what aspect? Like visually, or just at a game, a coding level?
If you want to change what the notebook says.
Okay. Yeah. Fair
so
enough.
there's differences here and there. In some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder. It literally just boils down to what you're trying to do.
Okay, man. And then obviously on hacking again, you say you've been working on it for 3 years.
Yeah.
When are we gonna have a release, man? When are we gonna be able to ride our bikes around Dobrita? Come on, man.
You kill me.
Yeah, put you on the spot.
No, I'm sorry. So outside of the Shenmue world, I work like 80 hours a week, and so I have like no time. So my problem is that, for one, like, I don't have enough time to work on it, and for two, I don't even know if it's like entirely possible because of the way you have to hack the game to do it. It involves like hijacking AI functions to be able to get Rio to call the AI functions that NPCs would use to get on the bike, and then hoping that the game doesn't crash because of CRC mischecks and all that crazy stuff. it's a lot of hacking. Like I've already modified like like trial and error at least, like thousands of lines of hex to be able to try to get it to do what it's doing. I'm also I'm also learning a version of assembly so that I can actually deconstruct the game almost at a code level and change it that way.
Would that be a lot easier then? Would it to do it?
No. Oh man, it's like the difference between programming in Java and programming in assembly.
Fair enough.
For all those programmers out there, they know what I'm talking about. It's much more difficult because you're at such a lower level, closer to the code, that things are not obvious. There's no obvious variable names. There's no obvious things here and there. Like you have to actually think of it from a workflow standpoint. So.
All right, cool, man.
So probably never, to be honest.
You were here to hear, folks. You know.
Yeah, right. I finally admit it. I have no idea how to do it. I've gotten very close at certain points.
Yeah.
I actually fried a Dreamcast doing it because at one point I was actually trying to hack the RAM live. And
is that a bad idea?
Yeah. I don't know how to solder, and I don't know how to construct machinery. So I wound up like burning a hole into my Dreamcast trying to solder something to it. And then I burnt my hand with my soldering iron because I'm a dum-dum. And it was a bad day.